Sue Kedgley, if I could welcome you first, Greater Wellington Regional Councillor, Deputy Chair of the Sustainable Transport Committee and also a member of Te Upoko, the Natural Resource Management Committee. And Sue is going to introduce us to this segment. Welcome, Sue.
Well, tēnā koutou katoa, and it's fantastic to see the energy and the buzz in this room that has been generated by the fantastic array of speakers we've had from around the world and here in New Zealand. So I hope this will really stimulate policy discussions well into the future. Well, we've heard a lot about electric cars, and so now we're turning to electric buses. And as we've heard this morning, rising concerns about climate change and serious health effects of air pollution are fuelling a global transition away from dirty, polluting diesel buses that depend on fossil fuel and into clean, non-polluting electric buses that capitalise on our abundant renewable energy here in New Zealand. And I might add that no one as yet has mentioned the fact that a couple of years ago, the World Health Organization categorised or recategorised the particulates in diesel emissions as Class 1 carcinogens in the same category as asbestos, arsenic and second-hand smoke. And sooner or later, for the sake of our public health, we're obviously going to have to get rid of diesel engine vehicles. And this obviously has implications for bus companies who are about to invest in diesel buses, for example, which have a 20-year lifespan. And I think we also, at some stage, are going to have to consider the implications of the health and safety legislation for requiring people to be exposed to carcinogenic diesel fumes. So these are issues that are emerging, and bus operators are obviously very aware of all of these global trends and the fact that diesel buses will become stranded assets at some time in the hopefully not too distant future. So they're really grappling with this fast-changing new reality and with the rapid advances that are being made in electric bus technology, and that is why this session is so topical and so timely today. Now, as we've heard, some countries are well advanced in this transition to electric buses. The Netherlands, for example, has already committed to having a zero-emission bus fleet by 2025. Oslo's committed to having a quarter of its bus fleet electric by 2025, and other cities have made similar commitments. As we've heard this morning, the Wellington Regional Council has made a commitment to an all-electric bus fleet, and we are the first regional council in New Zealand to do so, and we're looking forward to trials of electric battery buses here in Wellington soon. The council has also signalled to bus operators that it's keen to replace diesel buses with low-emission buses, and there will be a weighting in the council's evaluation process to encourage low-emission buses in our upcoming tender for bus services. But before electric buses can really become mainstream, especially in hilly cities like Wellington, there are issues such as the cost, the weight, the maintenance, the range of batteries, recharging technology and passenger capacity that need to be addressed. And so it's fortunate indeed, as Malcolm has pointed out, that research into battery bus technology is taking place all around the world. The European Union recently allocated €22 million to test innovative electric bus technologies with different charging infrastructure, and a similar scale of investment is taking place in other parts of the world, in particular, of course, China. Many governments are also using policy levers to accelerate the uptake of electric buses. The British government, for example, has set up the Office of Low Emission Vehicles to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions from British bus fleets and to improve air quality in Britain. And it set aside £30 million to support the purchase of low and ultra-low emission buses by local councils and transport operators across England and Wales. Well, our Minister has explained this morning the electric vehicle policy that was introduced recently and which will exempt electric vehicles, including buses, from road user charges. And he pointed out this would be a saving of a couple of $1,000s a year. So that is some incentive. But most experts agree that if we're serious about speeding up the uptake of electric buses, there need to be additional incentives that take into account the significant climate change, environmental, public health benefits of low-emission vehicles in terms of their improved air quality and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and the extraordinary harmful public health effects of carcinogenic diesel particulate emissions, not to mention nitrous oxide and various other emissions, and which therefore favours or advantages electric buses over diesel buses, which clearly are cheaper to purchase and much more widely available at this point in time. So clearly there does need to be further work at the national policy level on incentives, and particularly at the national level, because the government is such a key player in New Zealand in public transport and funds 50% of public transport projects. That's why we're so delighted to have key players such as the Transport Agency, the NZTA, Ministry of Transport and ECA attending, and I might acknowledge indeed that they're also sponsoring our symposium here today, because we think that a lot of work needs to be done still in this space, and we're delighted that some of our overseas speakers are going to be meeting with the Ministry of Transport, with ECA and others to continue the conversations that we have begun here today. Specific issues need to be addressed, and they are being addressed, such as the bus axle weights of heavier electric battery buses, so they can be used on our roads without compromising passenger capacity or indeed the quality of our roads. But there are wider issues that urgently need attention if we are to accelerate the uptake of electric buses, and as the Chairman Chris Laidlaw said this morning, if we are to tilt the playing field in favour of electric buses. The government policy statement for land transport, which sets the direction for transport policy in New Zealand, needs to be revised to recognise the environmental, the climate change, the public health benefits of electric buses, and to give priority to low-emission buses over diesel buses, so that government funding of public transport can incentivise councils to phase out polluting diesel buses and replace them with clean, non-polluting electric buses, which is not the case at the moment. However, as Mike Underhill has pointed out this morning, everybody needs to do their bits, and that includes regional councils. We need to show leadership in this area as well. That's why we have, together with the City Council, organised this symposium today. It's why we've made a commitment to an all-electric bus fleet. Clearly, we also need an electric vehicle association, an active one such as exists in California. We need everyone on board, supermarkets, the Wellington Electricity and others, because what has become abundantly clear this morning is that in New Zealand we are way behind, we're lagging way behind in this space. However, we New Zealanders, we're smart and we're innovative, so I'm quite confident that we could catch up in a very rapid way if we can get the leadership that we need from the government, from the regional councils, and from everybody here today. Thank you.